The focus of the report on Empowered India is to identify the critical variables for improving the business climate in India, and then to identify as to which of the Indian states is following the best practice in those variables, and in the next phase make the recommendations for how these best practices can be replicated in the other states. And therefore, the overall objective, the overall focus of the report is to suggest, recommend practical measures to improve the business climate in India on the basis of practices which already exist in the country. A lot of it is surprise because we had gone in with a very open mind. So we did not really know as to which state has done better than the others, etc. So yes, like Rajasthan and in the case of other states as well, for example, single window system that has been done in Gujarat or Andhra, some of these were surprises, but we had undertaken the research with an open mind, and therefore were prepared for such surprises.
Do you feel each of the states surveyed can offer some learnings for other states to emulate?
No, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the research that we've done. And therefore, what we've done is that's not just only sort of looked at the best practice, but actually gone further into saying as to how that state has achieved that best practice. So that therefore we know about the practical steps that have been taken to make that possible, because then those then can be replicated, and we can help the other states to follow the same practices in making, in achieving or in implementing those best practices. We have already, with the ones we've already taken up some of the findings with the states that have been surveyed in order to validate them, in order to make sure that they agree that our findings are right, and that they have not gone. We've not sort of gone away from the from the actual reality. The next step also would be to take these findings to other states which were not included in the survey, because we confined our survey at the moment to only 7 states, but we do want to expand the coverage to all the 20 or 24 major states. Well, all the 10 variables that we've identified need immediate attention, because that's why we have selected 10 only out of about 70 or 80 which are normally considered as a part of the competitiveness or the doing business survey. So I don't really want to prioritize within the 10, because I think all the 10 are really equally important if any state wants to improve the business environment and the investment conditions in that particular state. The main learning from the report is that that some states, and this was a very pleasant surprise, are already working to improve their business environment. Second one was that when we went back to other states, that most of them are actually quite keen to replicate and improve the business environment. And the third learning is that we in India, even where we are practicing the best, having the best practice, these are still quite behind the frontier achieved by other countries in the world. So that in the first phase of our project would be to try and get the laggard states to become as good as the leading states in India. But then the next phase would be as to how even the leading states can cover the gap between themselves and the best practices internationally. After the report, we are trying to set up a task force which will go into the modalities and the plan of action of how to take the recommendations of the report forward to the state governments. So we will then we will be contacting the different state governments and working with them and on some of these variables, because otherwise the practical aspect of the report will not be achieved, and which we do want to make sure that is not the case.